Thank you so much. Right, so good afternoon. As I said, my name is Val Leeming. I'm very excited to be working with the Liberty team on the Better Me, and we're really focusing on being better from a financial perspective. So today's session is about 40 minutes long, 45 minutes long. We will send you the slides because obviously we really want you to feel comfortable with the Better Me Financial Wellness Program, so that you are able to really encourage your staff to use the program. So in terms of today, we're going to be talking a little bit about some key questions to look at around the theme of financial wellness. And then we're going to take a deep dive into the financial wellness program, how staff can benefit from the program, how we're rolling out, and more importantly, how you as managers, can use the program, but also refer staff members who are in distress to the program. And then we're even going to give you a sort of sneak preview at what's to come in the next couple of months. So before we get started, any questions?
No, nothing from my side.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you. So we're going to start with this quote of John DeMartini. He talks about the quality of your life and your finances is determined by the quality of your questions, and that is so true. In fact, I don't know whether you're familiar with this golden circle, which was developed by a great thinker called Simon Sinek. And basically, he's a behavioral psychologist and economist, and he looks at why we do what we do. And he says he decodes the reason why some people are more successful and some people and companies are more successful than others. And he says that it really starts with the way we think. Most people start outside in. So when it comes to our personal finances, we think, what do we need to do? Spend less than we earn. How are we going to do it? I'm going to budget. But we never get to why is financial wellness so important? So very often we find ourselves counting the sleeps to our next paydays. And so, you know, we're not all financially successful. So we thought we would start today's session with why is financial wellness so very important? Why is Liberty and the Better Me program really focusing on financial wellness? And for the last 17 years, I've really dedicated my life to financial wellness. I'm passionate about it. And I guess the first reason why I think it's so important is that financial literacy in South Africa and around the world is quite low. And I think the reason why it's low is because it's very much a taboo topic. It's not a topic we can talk about. In fact, in the workplace, it's often seen as a dismissible offense if we were to ask one another, so how much do you earn? And so in families, it also becomes a taboo topic. So we don't often have money conversations with our children until maybe it's too late. And so it's the common denominator. It's the reason why every employee at Liberty works. And yet, sadly, we're not all healthy, wealthy, and wise. Financial stress is rife. And in the past, the biggest causes of stress in our lives would have been things like death of a loved one, divorce, moving, or change. And nowadays, financial stress is on par or supersedes those big stress factors. In fact, the SADC, South African Depression and Anxiety Group, report 200 calls a day, people contemplating suicide because of finance, because of money stress. And the pandemic has just made that more relevant because it's affected so many people from a financial perspective. And at the end of the day, we certainly believe that people want to thrive and not just survive. So financial wellness is really the ability to make an informed decision about your personal finances. It's being educated, being able to assess where are you at right now in your financial life, and more importantly, where do you want to go? Just this morning, I was doing a session for a group of employees and I asked the question, do you have a financial goal? And 80% of them said no. So obviously, if you don't have a goal, then you don't know where you're going in terms of that financial destination. So financial wellness, what we really want to strive to do is make sure every Liberty employee has the skills that they need in order to make these good, informed decisions. Which brings me to the question, how financially healthy do you think we are as a nation? So once again, if you just on that Menti polling, you can vote whether you think we're very healthy, average financial health, or poor financial health. And there you go. Everybody seems to agree we have poor financial health. And just to sort of look at some of the key stats and facts that support your gut feeling is firstly, for every 100 Rand you and I earn, your employees earn, around about 73 Rand is spent on debt. So even though interest rates have dropped to 7%, giving us a bit of cash flow relief, especially if you're a homeowner or you have a car, debt ratios have actually gone up. Normally when rates go down, debt ratios go down too, but it's gone up. And Old Mutual report, they normally do a savings and investment annual report. Last year, they were looking at 75% of people feeling severe financial stress. We're now at 80%. So one of the big triggers is sadly unemployment. And in the beginning of lockdown, I remember Tito Mboweni predicted 1 million jobs to be lost. And I was like, it's impossible. 1 million jobs, that's massive. And we're already at 3 million people having lost jobs. And that number sitting at 30% at the moment, an increase from 27%, is expected to rise to 35%. And one of the risks, obviously, is that long-term people are not going to be able to retire, and also that people don't have a will. And we know that Liberty employees, we want to make sure that they retire comfortably. We also want to make sure that their beneficiary nomination forms are up to date and they have a will in place. So from a personal perspective, it's important to check in and sort of say, well, how financially healthy am I? And we've been asking these questions for many, many years. So I'm not asking you to answer, but just think about it. If you didn't get paid at the end of August, would you still be able to pay the bills on time? Do you have more or less debt than you had this time last year? Besides saving for your retirement through your company's pension provident fund, do you also have an in case of emergency fund? Are your beneficiary nomination forms up to date? And do you have a will in place? So if you've answered yes to all of those questions, then that's wonderful. But if you haven't, then that's really how the coaching program can assist you. Because as I said, financial stress is very real. And for 17 years, we've seen it in companies like Deloitte, companies like PwC, the auditing firms, professional firms, banks. And financial stress affects people at all different levels. It doesn't just affect staff, it affects managers, it affects directors. Often the more we earn, the more we spend. So financial stress has a massive impact on organizations, and progressive companies really want to reach out and to make sure that their employees are healthy proactively. So I know as part of the ICAS program, you can call, but you're reacting to the situation. What we want to do is to proactively get people excited about managing their finances. So financial stress is said to have an impact on a person's physical health. 70 to 90% of doctors' visits are due to stress. We know money causes stress. It also has an impact on relationships. It has an impact on productivity and even on attendance, although maybe attendance in the virtual world hasn't been as affected, but productivity is a real cause for concern. So when asking the question, are you worried about money? Only 1% of people never have to worry about money. The rest of us, we either sometimes, very often or all the time are worried about personal finances. So you might be saying, well, why now? Why are we focusing on personal finance now? And I guess I certainly feel that this past couple of months, or 2020, has been a bit of a roller coaster. There have been lots of ups and downs. So we thought this video will explain why now and the importance of resilience so well. So let's watch and see. So I'm always quite feeling positive in terms of a reminder of all we've got to be grateful for. And I think back over the last few months, think about how this pandemic has had positive outcomes, how we've had to think about responding, adjusting, adapting, thriving, and maybe even growing. So this concept of resilience, so vitally important. A great example of resilience, of course, is this beautiful blonde lady on your screen, none other than J.K. Rowling, who, as the story goes, she was single, she was a single parent, she was down and out, she didn't have a job, she was destitute. She wrote a book about this little wizard boy called Harry, took it to a publisher, was rejected 12 times. I don't know about you, but after the first 1 or 2 no, I would have thought there's something else in my career for me, not being an author. But great resilience, and look at the success. She's now, as you know, author of Harry Potter, multi-billion-dollar success. Another great example of resilience is, of course, Thomas Edison, who was famous for saying in developing the light bulb, I didn't fail, I just found 10,000 ways that won't work. So from a financial perspective, one of our goals of the program is to build financial resilience, because it's inevitable. It can be something horrible like death of a loved one or a spouse, disability. It can be something short-term like getting into a car accident or a geyser bursting. But do staff have the resilience that they need in order to cope with that challenge? And so it's interesting to look at what are some of the top financial challenges that are faced by consumers, and your employees fall into this category. And out of these 7 reasons, really there's only 2 that is not outside of our control. Too much debt within our control. We can teach staff about the importance of managing debt and getting out of the debt trap. Spending more than we earn is a habit. Bad planning is a habit. Carrying additional debts of partners, spouses, very often it's referred to as black tax, family tax, something we need to set expectations on. Not having savings to fall back on. Once again, behavioral. We can create room in their budget for them to save. But unemployment and job loss really are the 2 things we cannot avoid, but we certainly can support them through that. So the impact of financial stress on employers is very real. It's linked to absenteeism, to presenteeism, and in some industries, accidents and errors. So really, it's critically important to encourage employees to think about what they really want. And at the end of the day, this question is vitally important. It's also known as the every person test, because it doesn't matter whether you ask men or women, South Africans or Australians or Americans, at the end of the day, we all want the same things. And the average answer is people want to be secure, happy, and healthy. But when their finances are not in order, when they don't have security, then their happiness and health is impaired and affected. So really, we want to be able to empower employees to budget better, manage debt, have the right protection elements in place, access and understand their credit report, have the right personal protection. But the one thing we cannot always protect against is, sadly, job loss. So the program has 4 key elements, and it's starting with a financial health assessment. So this assessment is asking employees to engage with us, to assess themselves, to look at where they are right now on their financial journey, and it's linked to education. Because as they assess themselves, they start on what we call our 12-week journey to financial success. It's a digital journey. Every week we'll be sending an email and an SMS to get them to implement some of their financial healthy habits in their own personal lives. Second part of the program is financial coaching and support. So employees have access to a financial coach. A financial coach can engage with them telephonically, electronically, virtually, using a platform like Teams, and hopefully as soon as we're in level 1, face-to-face once again. And then obviously report backs, very important, being able to assess the trends and be able to de-identify a report back to the organization is important, and then link to this financial education. So we're starting the program with manager training, and then we're doing an awareness drive and a financial health assessment. Staff info shares will start this week, and then financial clinics every single month. We have 4 financial clinics, although staff members can also then obviously phone in during regular office hours. Power hour sessions on a variety of themes that we're going to give you insights on in just a sec. But before we get to that, let's just clarify what a financial coach is and how they can assist you. So a financial coach is not a financial broker or a financial agent. Vikesh.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, maybe going back to that previous point on all of these interventions that we have, besides sort of obviously encouraging it and so forth, what are the other mechanisms we can use to get staff to take up these this program that we're offering them? I mean, I think the fact is, like you said earlier, this whole topic is taboo and people don't want to speak about it, and rather put my head into the sand and I hope that it'll be okay at some point. I mean, is there something that we as managers can do to encourage it or maybe create some motivation to get onto these programs?
So Vikesh, I love your question, and I would definitely say that as managers, very often staff come to us first if there is a problem. So being able to refer them to the program, I'm going to go into how that works in a minute, but I think leading by example, the fact that you and Renee are on the call, that you are saying this is important, mentioning it in your team meetings, encourage staff to meet with a financial coach. We'll be empowering you with a lot of short videos that you can use, 2-minute videos, encourage them to use the program. It's almost like you just want to tell them time and time again, it's free, it's confidential, it's accessible. It's the reason why you work. Use financial coaching, reach out, get help. Because you as manager can't fix the financial problems, but us as coach, we certainly can. And so I would really say leading by example, reminding them, inviting us to your meetings. If you have a meeting with your staff and you have a 10-minute slot, we would love to participate. We'll do a short talk on something, just our top financial tip of the day maybe, but really just creating that awareness. Because people don't sadly read email as much, they're overwhelmed, and there is so much content thrown at us that I cannot emphasize the importance of FaceTime. FaceTime is a game changer. So if you can help us in that way, that would be fabulous.
And you'll give us your contact details at some point. I think that's a good idea. I'd like to take you up on that.
Lovely. We would love that opportunity. Thank you. So really, coaching is understanding your now and helping you set goals in terms of where you want to go. And it's a safe space. And the key word is it's confidential. So we don't sell any financial products at all. We're there to guide the employee. And that's the key thing. So in terms of our services, there are 4 pillars of financial health. The first pillar is that of planning and payments. So we're able to assist employees with budget building, budget streamlining, accessing their credit report. How much are they paying on bank charges? How overwhelmed are they feeling with regards to debt? What debt solution is available? We've got 5 different debt solutions that we can help employees with. Then guiding them if they're deciding to look at a home. Very often employees have never bought a home. People only buy homes every 10 years. So to be able to be guided through the process of what can you afford? Great, interest rates are low now, but what happens if interest rates go up? Will you and that home still stick together? Guiding them in terms of vehicle financing, making sure they're aware of their staff banking benefits with Standard Bank, what's available to them, giving them guidance on personal lending. You know, so often people don't understand the real cost of lending. So when you take a look at the monthly service fee, the credit life fee, the initiation fee, if you take a loan of 10, you repay 20. That's the reality. So we want to create awareness. And then protection. Do they know the importance of drafting a will? Do they need help with tax? And then prosperity. And on prosperity, we do refer back to the Liberty team, to a Liberty financial advisor. But the question is, do you have a relationship? Do you have a goal? And do you need a planner? And I certainly believe that that's very, very important. So as managers, it's important to be able to identify financial stress in the organization or within your team. And so just be aware of these sort of maybe triggers or conversations. So sometimes I'm not seeing it now, but certainly there was a trend for about 2 to 3 years, staff resigning in order to access their pension fund monies because they were over in debt. And so at that point, a manager referral, we can save that staff member, get them out of debt, and they are better off for it. It's the worst financial mistake you'll ever make. If a staff member requests a personal loan, or you see inter-employee lending, so staff members lending from one another is a recipe for disaster. Very often it happens in call center environments, and very often it could be even team leaders who are in distress, and you can just imagine how that performance review would go if the team leader had borrowed money from another staff member. Or if you're seeing in normal times a car that wasn't moving from the parking area, it could be an indicator that that employee is scared of their vehicle being repossessed, or maybe it's fear around eviction, or staff members not coming to work a couple of days before payday because they've run out of funds. So just being aware of it, and just then, once again, referring them to the program. So we have 2 types of referral process. The first is informal. Do you know about the Better Me Financial Wellness Program? Use the program, contact them. Or a case of a formal referral. Now, formal referral is literally where you complete a lead form on our system. It's just a little link. We'll give you that link, and we will then give you feedback in terms of that case. Not nitty-gritty feedback, high-level feedback. The employee was willing to meet with us. The employee presented with this problem. The employee is conducive to being assisted in the following way. So very high level, not nitty-gritty feedback. So either which way, I can't encourage you enough really to please refer employees to the program. So the formal referral process is a 3-step process. And basically, you would simply fill in a lead. You would give us your details and then click proceed to step 2. You would give us the employee's details and what's the best time for us to contact the employee. And then we would make contact. And then at the end of the day, we would give you feedback that we've contacted the employee, the case is open, the meeting's been scheduled, and we give you feedback on that case. So formal and informal. As I said, once we receive that employee's details, we then engage with coaching. So very often we look at, it's a non-threatening, very empathetic environment. Most of our coaches have been with us for over 10 years, although they range in age. It's a confidential process. They're 30 minutes long. Normally the first session is a little longer. We look at where are you at now, what is your most pressing need, and how can we assist you? So whether the employee is single and starting out, considering commitment. So if you know an employee who's considering commitment, why don't you and your partner go for financial coaching before you get married? So many marriages end in divorce because of money. Get on the same page. Or an employee who's pregnant. Have you thought about the impact of a new baby on your financial life? Why not contact the employee? Or an employee who might be struggling with multiple generational support, or an employee heading towards retirement, the earlier the better. If you could just encourage them to use the program. Once again, those 3 words, free, confidential, and accessible. So in the coaching methodology that we follow is we look at where are you now? We ask a host of questions. We ask the readiness to change question. Are you ready or willing to make changes? Why are you experiencing what you're experiencing? The reason that why question is so important is, let's take an example. Let's say an employee, husband or wife has just been retrenched due to COVID-19. And that's the reason why they're struggling financially. It's a very different conversation to an employee who, let's say, has simply gotten into the habit of online gambling during lockdown. That's a different reason why they're experiencing the financial distress that they're experiencing. Then we look at the hotspot. What is the most pressing need or concern? We try and link that to a goal. So let's say the hotspot is, I'm completely overwhelmed with too much debt. We would then say, okay, so is it your goal to get out of debt? Yes, great. Are you willing to make changes? Yes, wonderful. Now, during the process, we're going to need to check in with you regularly. What's the best way for us to support you? Sometimes we include the spouse in the discussion. Depends on the employee, and it depends on the presenting problem that the employee has. So one of the key things we focus on is, do you budget monthly? So very often we find that sadly people don't budget. And if they do budget, then sadly they don't always stick to their budget. So in the staff sessions, we'll be asking this question, do you budget monthly? And then looking at whether people are saying yes, they do, or no, they don't, or sometimes, and then looking at, obviously, do they stick to their budget? Do they stick to their budget? Now, interestingly enough, when it comes to sticking to a budget, we on average have around 70% of people say they don't stick to the budget, because the budget is not an active document. So we spend a lot of our time on budget building and budget streamlining. For example, it's interesting to note that the average South African spends 9% of their income on cell phones and data. So that's obviously an area of streamlining. So there you have it, 75% don't stick to their budget. So then we take a look at whether COVID has affected their personal finances. Has it been positive and they have spent less? Is it negative that they've spent more? Or potentially, is it a case of there's neutral? There is no difference or impact on their personal finances. And this is a great way to see whether, if it's positive, then it shows you that they were spending X on maybe non-essential items. If it's negative, they may have taken on additional expenses to support family. If it's no change, they were obviously quite tightly budgeting in the first place. We then explore whether they feel like they have too much debt. And this is once again a sensitive topic, but people are very often honest. They feel like they have too much debt. Over-indebted is actually a legal term. So we explore, what does it mean to be over-indebted? So for example, if your income is 10,000 Rand and your living expenses, so transport, groceries, your rent, let's say your insurance, that say comes to 6,000 Rand, but your debt repayments come to 7,000 Rand, you're legally over-indebted. You've got too much debt so that you cannot actually live and live comfortably. So we very often give guidance around debt. And in terms of this, our simple debt do's and don'ts during the pandemic would be, let us assist you in getting a copy of your credit report. Let's get you out of the debt trap. Imagine waking up on payday not having any debt. Do you have too much debt? Acknowledging that there is a problem is the first step to solving that problem. Let's see whether we need to make arrangements. Don't fall into arrears. What debt relief options are available? Your wife's lost her job. Okay, so then maybe we can apply for debt relief depending on the bank and depending on your credit report. What we want to avoid, and Vikesh, you mentioned it earlier, is this ostrich syndrome. And Wall Street Journal calls us the ostrich generation because we tend to avoid these problems, or we explore a consolidation loan, and that really doesn't help us get out of the debt trap unless we're consolidating short-term debt into a bond facility at a much better interest rate. But then we have to have discipline to keep the period the same as the short-term debt. So really, we want to encourage staff to have a will and to create awareness on what happens when they die without a will, to make sure that they update beneficiary nomination forms, and that they start to look at every aspect of their financial life. So whether you're sort of in a good place financially, can we help you make your finances work for you even more? Or is it a case of you needing further assistance in a certain area? So once again, not only the Liberty employee, but their direct family members, so their partner, spouse, or a direct family member living within that home unit are able to access that, that program, the financial coaching program. And literally, we can assist you, as I've mentioned, with a range of financial concerns. So I just thought I would end up with the 4 C's, just some guidance on in terms of managing your finances through the pandemic. We've been encouraging people to remember the 4 C's. The first C is that of communication. So we really think it's important during a crisis for employees to reach out and communicate if they're feeling financially distressed, to communicate with the program, to communicate with ICAS, to communicate with their managers, and to ask themselves, you know, who are the people within my tribe that I would reach out if there was wonderful news, my wife was pregnant, or terrible news, there's been a death in the family. Communication is just so vitally important during times of a pandemic, in times of stress. And then connect. So build and invest in relationships. So we want staff to really ask themselves, do I have a relationship with a financial planner, with my insurance specialist? And you know that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. We really want them to reach out and build a relationship with a financial coach before it's too late, before a crisis. So to once again be proactive. The next C is being calm. And certainly, just looking at this slide, it was quite difficult to be calm when you saw the stock market take a drop across the board, across nations, all of the different markets around the world, including the JSE. But lovely to see in that red line, that sharp, what we call V-shaped recovery. And certainly our advice during a pandemic is not to panic. And as with your Liberty advisors, they will say, don't make any decisions without speaking to a trusted advisor. Remember, your pension fund is highly regulated, or Provident Fund, highly regulated. Don't dump investments now. And remember that short-term dips are part of the process. So don't panic, be calm. And lastly, control what you can. So the big thing at the moment we want to encourage staff is to tighten their belts, to cut out unnecessary items. The one thing we do know is that we don't know. How long will the pandemic have an impact on the economy? Not quite sure. Some economists are predicting 18 months, others are predicting longer. So the importance of building an emergency fund, keeping yourself safe, keeping your family safe, focusing on what you can control, your thoughts and very often your actions. So in terms of the program, we're starting with a financial health assessment. We really want people to sign up for that digital 12-week journey. It's 12 steps to a wealthier and wiser you. Every week we'll be sending them content, a learning element, and then there will be clinics available to staff to have that one-on-one engagement. And then a number of wonderful communications have been planned for the upcoming months. So in the month of September, we're focusing on a workshop called Get It Done, Avoiding Financial Procrastination. Spring forward, spring clean your finances. What are the top 10 things that we avoid doing, and what do we need to do in terms of our financial lives? In October, we're looking at the the sensitive subject of your mind and your money, how mental health issues are linked to financial health. In November, we're looking at emotional money triggers, why we do, what is the cost of our habits. And in December, being wise over the festive season, certainly after our hard year. So every single month, there will be an info pack with these there'll be a video element, a poster board element, a reading element. We also are happy to attend your meetings, to be able to share top tips for the month, as I mentioned. And really from our side, we're excited about the program. And so we thought we would end off just with that question, is the program free and confidential? And the answer is absolutely. It's free for both yourself and your family to use, and it's already available. So the message is, because Liberty cares, because we care, and because your finances are important. So that is hopefully gives you a good idea of the financial wellness program and the different elements. Do either of you have any questions?
How do we get in touch with you to present at one of our team sessions?
Vikesh, I've got your email address. I'm going to drop you an email with my address. And then I'm also going to send you the slides. So all you need to do is drop your key account manager, Maria, an email, or myself, and we will then organize for that session. At the moment, we're doing manager sessions. We have 3 sessions today, 3 tomorrow. So please encourage your other managers to attend. And then our staff sessions also, on Thursday the 20th, we have 3 sessions once again for managers and 3 staff sessions. So the sessions are always from 10 to 11, 12 to 1, or 2 to 3. So over the next 3 days, we'll be doing 9 manager training sessions, and then the staff sessions will roll out. Renee.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Val. This was very informative. So I wanted to get an understanding, because I'm probably, as HR lead for ops, I'm going to get all of the questions. But what I wanted to mention to Vikesh, maybe Vikesh, for your team members, it may be good for you to encourage them to join into these sessions next week, as opposed to trying to organize a different session for just your team at the later stage, because I think these sessions have been booked already for all staff. So if you can maybe just push your team members towards joining in on these sessions.
Yeah, I think probably after that they will need to have a look at, yeah, that's a good idea. Let me do this.
Yeah, so I mean, I think consistency is key. So yeah, Vikesh, I think it's Thursday, 10 to 11, 12 to 1, and 2 to 3. I'll send you those 3 teams links. Even if you just want to blast it out to your team, they don't even need to pre-book. They just need to go on and attend one of those sessions. And then going forward, no problem at all to do an info share session for your team specifically.
Hi, Val. I have another question. I didn't just give you a high five there. I wanted to check with you. I saw this morning there were 1 or 2 questions around people saying they can't access the link. So I heard you say that we can maybe send out an email to guys that couldn't register and access via the link, that we can send them the information. Don't you want to send that on, and then maybe I can make it available for our team to send on to other colleagues who say they can't access the link?
Absolutely. So Renee, please, if colleagues are struggling to click on the link, we did check with IT that the link was white labeled, so staff should be able to access it. But if they're unable to access it, they can either send an email to coach@interfaceinc.co.za, or they can just attend. Any one of the sessions is absolutely perfect. I will send you and Kate the links for each of the team sessions for staff, and we encourage as many staff members to attend as possible. In the staff sessions, we'll cover most of what we've covered, except for example, we wouldn't talk about the manager referral process. We encourage staff just to use the program directly themselves.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Val. Sorry, Val, I'm battling a little bit with getting information because I'm actually using my phone at the moment. I had to step out, so I'm not participating meaningfully. But if you can send me an email, I would appreciate it.
No problem at all, Renee. I promise I'll do that. I'll send you the slides. I'll send you the Teams meetings and times so you have them. We really appreciate your support.
Cool.
Thank you both.
It does
very
work. The link does work. I actually registered for both the manager and the staff one. I just wanted to see if the links work. So they do work. I'm not sure what the challenge is, but it would be nice if we can send it out in any event.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that would be wonderful. Thank you. So cool. We'll just do a slide with, you know, staff sessions, manage your finances effectively through a pandemic, and then just the Teams links and the dates and times. I'll send that to you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and have a lovely day.
Thanks, Val. Cheers, Vikesh.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye, Vikesh.
Bye.